Dear all, welcome. Welcome to the Daylight Award 2024 celebrations. Welcome to all of you who are gathered here in Copenhagen, but of course also a huge welcome to all of you who are following us online. We have no less than 3 satellite events taking place at universities in Zurich, Eindhoven, and in Oxford. Then we have jury members following us in Japan, in the United States, and in Spain. And we are streaming this event to everyone else in the world who is interested in daylight, in science, and in architecture. So indeed, it is an international celebration, suiting an international prize. My name is Line Friis Frederiksen. I'm a Danish science journalist, and I hold a master in biology, and I'll moderate this evening. And from my perspective, having a background in science, I think it's absolutely wonderful that for the 5th time we are now celebrating an award that creates a bond between architecture and science in a field that is so important for human beings in daylight. And daylight has created life that surrounds us on this planet. And since the dawn of humankind, daylight has been quintessential for us, for our development, for our behavior, and also for the way we created our first primitive homes. And the famous architect Louis Kahn has expressed the importance of light in this poetic way. We are born of light, the seasons are felt through light, we only know the world as it is evoked by light. And for thousands of years, architects have integrated daylight in the way they create buildings. And within the last centuries, and especially the last decades, scientists have begun to really understand how important daylight is for human beings, both mentally and physically. And they have also started to understand what the mechanisms of these effects are. So it really makes the utmost sense to have an award in the field of daylight that recognizes and honors both science and architecture. And as hosts of tonight's celebration, and to also hand over the awards, we have 2 descendants of the man who founded the fund that stands behind the Daylight Award. This man was named Willum Kan Rasmussen, and our 2 hosts are his grandchildren. The first is Jens Kan Rasmussen, who has a background in mechanical engineering. He's a passionate philanthropist and a roof window enthusiast. And also he chairs the Willum Fund. And then it is Lykke Kan Ostrup Lunde, who as a journalist has been reporting on both TV and radio, especially with focus on financial journalism. Lykke also does philanthropic work, and then she is chairing the Velux Fund and the Velux Stiftung. So please give our 2 hosts, Jens and Lykke, a big hand.
Dear guests, a very warm welcome to all of you, to you who are with us here in Copenhagen, and to all of you who are following us online. This is a very special day. It's the UNESCO International Day of Light, but it's also the day where we celebrate the Daylight Award Laureates 2024. We're here today not just to have a nice celebration and a good time and be together, but also because, as Line just said, daylight matters. Daylight is such an integrated part of life that we hardly notice. We're all aware that it's a crucial ingredient for all life on the planet, but we don't always think about it. Furthermore, daylight is still a free resource available for all. It's a resource that we haven't utilized to the full, even though it seems to be more relevant than ever with the scarcity we see in other natural resources on the planet. And even though daylight is of crucial importance to us and to the planet, and not many consider themselves daylight researchers or daylight pioneers.
We can proudly say that the initiatives in all 3 foundations supporting a wide range of non-profit purposes in Denmark, Switzerland, and internationally, gives a solid foundation to honor and support daylight research, but also daylight in architecture. The award puts specific emphasis on the interrelation between theory and practice, as the fields must be combined in order to maximize the benefit of daylight for humans, and the Daylight Award is a step in this direction. The three foundations have joined forces in the Daylight Award, and in the following short film, we will see the history and legacy of the award. Please enjoy.
The Daylight Award was established as an international prize in 2016, and it honours and supports daylight research and daylight in architecture for the benefit of human health, well-being, and for the environment. Given the importance of daylight, it's crucial that the fields of research and architecture exchange knowledge and work together, and the award acknowledges and encourages scientific knowledge and practical application of daylight. And it seeks to interlink disciplines that are usually addressed in separated, monocultural spheres, professional circles, or practices. The Daylight Award is presented by the philanthropic foundations Wilhelmsfonden, Veluxfonden, and Velux-Stiftung. The foundations fund a wide range of purposes, from scientific research over social projects to environmental projects. The foundations were established by Willem Kent Rasmussen, an industrious Danish graduate engineer who invented the Velux roof window and founded the company we now know as VKR Holding. The three foundations have a long history awarding best practice in daylight. Since 1980, the three foundations have awarded daylight prizes too. In 1980, the Danish architect Jon Utzon, followed by Henning Larsen in 1987, the Swiss architect Bob Giessen in 2007. In 2008, the American atmospheric sciences researcher Richard Perez, the American architect and artist James Carpenter in 2010, the Swiss architect Peter Zumthor in 2010, the French architects Lacaton and Vassal in 2011. In 2012, the Swiss architects Gigong and Goyer, and the Japanese architects Kazuyoshi Shima and Roy Nishizawa in 2014. In 2016, the foundations joined forces and established the Daylight Award as an international prize, and the first laureates were Swiss Professor of Sustainable Construction Technologies, Marilyn Anderson, and American architect Stephen Holl. In 2018, the laureates were Japanese architect Hiroshi Sambuchi and the American consultant and creator of the simulation program Radiance, Greg Ward. In 2020, the foundations decided to honor three laureates: Finnish architect Juha Leviska, British Professor of Circadian Neuroscience Russell Foster, and the American photographer and writer Henry Plummer. In 2022, the laureates were Yvonne Farrell and Shelley McNamara from Ireland, and Swiss neurobiologist Anna Wirtz-Justice from Switzerland.
It was a reminder that light is our material, and in a way this award reminds us again that light is one of the key materials of architecture.
What's amazing about natural light is that it's so varying across the world. It's like a music dance, it's like a free music that people have, and it really affects you emotionally.
It's been very interesting with the press releases about the award. They've gone around the world, and in my department, the Nuttall Department of Clinical Neuroscience, it's sort of flagged up the whole relationship between neuroscience and architecture in general. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunities for architects and people like myself to work closely together. And I think that's going to increasingly be the case as we go through this decade.
It was really a nice little film showing some of the background, at least, for the Daylight Award. And now it's time to get more in touch with our satellite events. Here in Copenhagen, we are situated at the Danish Architecture Center. It's really a stronghold for architecture. But our 3 satellites events are, as I said in the beginning, taking place at the universities. It's in Oxford and Zurich and Eindhoven, and that's where 3 of our jury members, who are all highly estimated scientists, are situated. So now let's pay our 3 satellite events, the universities, a visit.
Hi and welcome at Eindhoven University. This is my university. My name is Yvonne de Kort. I'm a professor here.
Hello, welcome to the University of Oxford. My name is Russell Foster and I'm Professor of Circadian Neuroscience and the Director of the Sleep and Circadian Neuroscience Institute and also Head of the Nuffield Laboratory of Ophthalmology.
My name is Gert Volkers. Welcome here at the main building of the ETH Zurich. I've been professor for medicinal chemistry at the ETH.
This university is actually one of the smallest ones of the Netherlands, and it's also quite young, not even 70 years old. We're high on the rankings, particularly in collaborating with industry and with the world outside, and we're very proud of this.
Oxford has a long history. We date back to about 1096. So there's been 9 centuries of continuous education, teaching and research at this institution.
I will be pleased to show you around and detect a little bit what is going on behind the walls.
Yeah, be careful of the step here.
What you see here is a painting of the 50s of the idealism of teaching and learning together. Francesco de Sanctis was one of the first guest professors in the humanities, arts and culture. And he has this famous saying, prima di essere ingegneri voi siete uomini. Before you become engineers, remember that you are humans. I worked here at the ETH in Zurich in the field of pharmaceutical sciences, tried to develop new medicines, and of course was immediately interested in the interaction of environment and drugs, environment and metabolism and daylight. Daylight is an important player for metabolic reactions. And so I came into this research where human beings and daylight and chemistry play an important role.
Not sure if the robots are awake yet. So I call myself an environmental psychologist. I study the effects of light on human functioning. I do this with my group, so not alone, luckily. We have lots of wonderful PhD students with expertises ranging from neurosciences to psychology and even architecture. But of course, we also collaborate very warmly with the building lighting group at Built Environment, where they also had lots of expertise in measuring light, in simulating light, in designing for light. Mind your steps here. The architect wanted to make a statement.
We're divided into 4 key divisions. There's the medical sciences division, which I'm a member of, the humanities, the social sciences, mathematics, physical and life sciences. So these are the 4 configurations for teaching and research across Oxford. There are around about 12,500 undergraduates and 13,500 graduate students, including masters and PhD students, and around about 15,000 members of staff. We're now standing in the Dorothy Crowfoot Hodgkin building. Dorothy Crowfoot Hodgkin is still the only female Nobel Prize winner in the UK, and she did some absolutely formative work in X-ray crystallography, defining the structure of penicillin, of vitamin B12 and insulin. Now, housed within this building is the Kavli Institute for Nanoscience Discovery. And this is really very exciting because the building houses a great range of different groups, interdisciplinary groups. So my group, the Sleep and Circadian Neuroscience Institute, is in here. There are X-ray crystallographers, there are physical scientists, there are those working on brain health, all in here. And the point of this building is to bring together different disciplines, different researchers to work at the interface between different sciences to come up with something new, exciting and novel. And I have to say that since I moved in just a few years ago, it's been a remarkable place to work.
So, welcome to the other campus. We are standing here in the famous Vladimir Brelog Weg. Vladimir Brelog, Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, professor at the ETH. And the premises of the chemistry are separated into 5 buildings, like 5 fingers of a hand, separated in inorganic chemistry, technical chemistry, organic chemistry, medicinal chemistry, material sciences, pharmaceutical sciences, and so on. This is where quite a bit of Nobel Prize winners accumulated, except me.
We're now entering one of the microscope suites.
So as a psychologist, being in a technical university, that's wonderful. We have all these toys that we can play with.
Sequence genes, we can identify new compounds and try and understand the fundamental molecular neuroscience of sleep and circadian rhythms.
This is the classical chemical lab. This is where my roots are. And after my PhD, it became too complicated, so I switched to more theoretical chemistry and molecular design. And that is where I ended up finally having singing and dancing molecules on a computer.
Well, here in Oxford, we're absolutely thrilled to be one of the satellite symposia on the 16th of May to celebrate the latest round of Daylight Award laureates in both architecture and research.
At the event, we will have speakers, so all very respected researchers in neurosciences, in chronobiology, in lighting design.
Young architects that are interested in daylight architecture, to biochemistry, life science experts in circadian rhythms and the biochemistry or neurochemistry.
And I have to say, it's just an enormous privilege being on the jury. You're exposed to not only the sciences, which of course is my area, but also in architecture. I've learned so much.
So I was super proud to be asked as a jury member of this wonderful award. And I was surprised, and I was also a little bit nervous, to be honest, to sit together with highly esteemed researchers, but also with architects, which is not my daily cup of tea, and together negotiate who would deserve this prize. And it was a wonderful process.
And of course, it's a great privilege to meet the laureates who've done this extraordinary work.
And now, in a minute, I'm totally excited that the names of the winners of the Daylight Award will be revealed, and we meet these eminent persons that have been selected by the jury for their ongoing expertise in daylight science and daylight architecture.
So it was really great to get in touch with our 3 satellite events. And I guess all the rest of you are also excited to soon hear the names of the laureates of this year's Daylight Award. But we'll keep you excited a little longer, because now it's first a big honor for me to be able to invite the chairperson of this year's jury onto the stage. It's the most distinguished person who has devoted his life to architecture. He's Finnish, and he's been a professor at the School of Architecture in Helsinki, and has also served as a director of the Museum of Finnish Architecture, also in Helsinki. But he has reached out much further than his native country. He's also been a professor of architecture in Addis Ababa, at Addis Ababa University in Ethiopia, and he has held visiting chairs of architecture at several American universities. Besides architecture, the chairperson also has shown a lifelong passion for art, for environmental psychology, and for philosophy. He practiced architecture until 12 years ago, and since then he's only been writing. And he's been writing a lot throughout his life. He's now published more than 80 books, or written 80 books. And they have been translated to loads of languages, and they are still being read by young architects around the world. And still, he has maintained a humiliated and curious approach to the world, and I think that is really admirable. And the person I'm talking about is, of course, Finnish architect Juhani Pallasmaa, which I would now like to invite to the stage. Please welcome him. Thank you so much, Juhani, for being with us today in Copenhagen.
My pleasure.
And now you've been the chairperson of the jury for the Daylight Award 2024. And as a person who has devoted his life to architecture and who has an enormous passion for art, for poetry, for philosophy, why do you think it's important to also integrate the understanding of science in architecture and maybe vice versa?
Well, my work has been exactly trying to build bridges between categories. And one of the dividing categories is between science and art. That's the CB Snow two cultures divide. And in this jury, I have experienced a very sincere and thorough effort to understand each other. And it is a remarkable jury where the scientists have voted for architecture and vice versa. We architects vote for the science winners. It is true that science and art deal with the two different worlds. Architecture and art primarily with the experiential and existential world, whereas science deals with the world of facts and quantifiable and rationalized knowledge. But those two worlds interweave, and it has been my honor and privilege to participate in some situations where this mediation is sought for, one being neuroscience. There has been now more than 20 years a academy to mediate between neuroscience and architecture.
Do you find, now you say it's two different worlds, do you find it easy to interweave, to understand each other?
Yes, well, understanding the individuals who practice these in these two different worlds is one thing, and then understanding the essence of their work is another thing. I must say, I couldn't follow too deeply the qualifications of the candidates for science, but I was listening carefully for the scientists to explain it. And I was very impressed that I believe both sides respected the other area and expertise in the other area. Also, the scientists were very careful about judging architectural projects.
Personally, have you always integrated daylight in the buildings that you created?
No. When I was a young radical student and architect, I was interested in other things. Daylight became important to me only after I was about 35 years old. And now I consider it the most poetic aspect of dimension of architecture.
And earlier when we talked, you said that actually you did not see the buildings in itself as the most important things of being an architect. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. My point of view to architecture is grounded in phenomenological philosophy. And Maurice Merleau-Ponty has a wonderful line where he says, "We come to see not the work of art, but the world according to the work." I think this is a very important sentence which reveals the fact that the quality of architecture is not in the building itself, but what it says about the world and being a human being in that world. So architecture is fundamentally an existential and mediating art form. But that applies to all art as well.
And then when you want to create a building, how do you then integrate this idea into the buildings that you end up creating?
I don't believe they are ideas, they are feelings. I believe whenever a genuine architect works on a project, he or she is working on himself or herself rather than a technical problem. It's feelings and experiences that you are dealing with. The material aspects technical aspects are just to, realize those, execute those feelings.
And how do you see the focus on daylight in architecture today, sort of generally? Is there enough focus in architecture on daylight?
I think architecture is in trouble everywhere in this world because it has become a technical expertise and economic matter. So true architects need to defend their art form. And daylight is one of the aspects which makes very clear sense. So in many ways, architecture, the subtleties of architecture could be taught through this device of daylight.
And I know you have written books also on daylight, so young architects could really read your books and then maybe...
I have written singular essays, not a book.
Not a book.
I might write it one day.
You have to do that then. And also, I know just one more thing before we finish this interview. I know when it comes to scientific research on the importance of daylight, we often go back and look on human evolution and the biological fundamentals for humans. But I know actually as an architect, you also are really interested in the history of human development. How come?
Well, not only human development, I have also studied now, well, I'm now almost 88. I have studied 83 years animal architecture.
Animal architecture?
Animal architecture. So I'm very interested in extending notions of architecture to the animal world because they are much superb architects compared to us. But altogether, the biological evolutionary history is something that we need to study seriously and soon. For instance, the simple reason why we all feel so nice, so good being next to an open fire is that we have been sitting next to open fire 600,000 years. It's deep in our constitution that open fire gives protection and pleasure. And also probably it had a very important role in the evolution of language. Language first started developing as hand gestures and then becoming sounds, probably sitting by the fire rather than hunting. You wouldn't be making noise when you hunt.
So I think it's some really important points that we both need to look at human history, evolution, and also extend it to the animal world, animal kingdom. and also to integrate much more about daylight. So that's why also it's a perfect mindset for this Daylight Award. And of course, Juhani Pallasmaa, we want to thank you for having chaired the jury of this year's awards. And thank you for being with us, and thank you for sharing your wise and poetic words. So please all give Juhani Pallasmaa a big hand. And now it is indeed time to hand out tonight's first award. That is the award given for outstanding scientific research in daylight that benefits humankind. And to hand out that award, I'll now again invite Jens Kan Rasmussen up upon the stage. Please give him a hand.
Thank you. The laureate that we are about to honor has made fundamental research findings that have been both highly cited and influential, and significantly applied to multiple branches of society, spanning medicine, public policy, and architecture. In addition, his influential work as a scientist, he is a gifted communicator that advocates for the importance of daylight for human health. Allow me to quote the jury. He has dedicated most of his career to investigating the effects of light on circadian clocks, sleep, and health. His work spans the natural and social sciences, and this comparative and interdisciplinary strategy has allowed him to take novel approaches to address key questions relating to the effects of daylight on human health, well-being, and performance. He has developed and validated the widely used Munich chronotype questionnaire and has become notably influential as the creator of the social jet lag concept. This concept defines the difference in sleep timing between work and free days, and reflect changes individuals must make for work that are counter to their natural biology. In conclusion, the jury was deeply impressed by his fundamental research findings, their application to help resolve real-world issues, and his ability to communicate this work to both scientific and public audiences. The 2024 laureate for Daylight is Professor Emeritus of Chronobiology at the Institute of Medical Psychology at Ludwig Maximilian University in Munich. He is Professor Till ROENNEBERG. Please welcome him to the stage. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's really a great honor.
It's transparent, of course.
Can you see the light?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please let me present our portrait film about Professor ROENNEBERG.
Once we discovered social jet lag and it became popular as a concept, people started to correlate health and illness with social jet lag, which means that we can say to everyone who is shaping our environment, our human modern environment, you can say, we have to go camping. And when you take these people back camping, meaning you give them daylight and night darkness, the whole thing gets earlier and gets narrower, which means that your social jet lag is going to be reduced, which means that your health is going to be improved. Most of my life, I was interested in entrainment, sort of how my personal individual clock embeds itself into the cyclic environment of a day. For example, take school start times. Many teachers always say, yes, they don't have to work, they don't have to look at their phones so much, they should not have lights in the evening, they should go to bed earlier, and then they can wake up earlier. Typical jargon of elderly teachers. I work with people who live without electricity in Brazil. because I'm interested in how our life was like when we didn't have lighting. The only people in those villages that have to be woken are teenagers. They have no discos, they have no computers, they have no phones. But they are late. It's a biology. So it is very, very important that we get people back into being synchronized. We don't have to sleep because of sleep. We sleep in order to be optimally awake. And if we cut down on sleep, we are not optimally awake. And if we can all sleep an hour longer, that means that society starts to understand that they should shift social demands towards the biology instead of the biology towards social demands. And to use all these insight in real day life and work together with a lot of people who have no clue about biology, but should have a clue about biology. And that is shift planners, people who can't sleep well, but most importantly, architects who create those microclimates of light that we have to live in. If we can make our environment so that we can simulate camping as much as possible, meaning that we have to get daylight into buildings, and I always say it must be possible to collect the daylight at the roof and funnel it through pipes. I don't know if this is possible. This is not my problem. But you should get daylight into the ceilings, because that's where daylight comes from, not from these holes in the vertical walls, which are bright when you go to the window and look out. But the minute you turn around, you lose a factor of 1,000 in your lux, which is a measurement for the intensity of light. So there are all these huge social experiments which need the expertise of so many different disciplines that make, even at the end of my career, make my life just so much fun that I wouldn't do anything else.
I go up now? Well, thank you very much. I'm going to show you a couple of slides, not to bore you too much about the science, but I think as a scientist you should show a bit of what has been done and what should be done in future. And of course this award is just the most fantastic award in the world, because it's about daylight. Every biologist and every architect should dream of getting this award, because it's bridging disciplines, and it is what I just said. It's making the world aware that we should create our environment towards our biology and not the other way around. And that I'm very thankful for this award. So the importance of daylight for health. I'm now working together with AI always for several reasons. First of all, because it's sometimes very funny what AI does when you tell it to do something. And secondly, the pictures you create with AI have no copyright difficulties. So here is how AI sees the world if you tell it to show the world with sun and day and night and so forth. The continents are very, very imaginary, but it's fun. But what I wanted to say, daylight it never comes alone. Because biology has adapted to both daylight, and I invent a new word here put together, and that is night dark. So if we have daylight in one word, you also can have night dark in one word, and they're yin and yang of biology, and therefore I am also... in Lausanne, I once gave a talk in complete darkness, because without slides, of course, because I wanted to make people understand that they can actually listen to information without having to see anything. So the importance of daylight for health, mainly, in many instances, goes via the circadian system. And the circadian system in humans and in other mammals has a central spot, and is called the SCN. It's a nucleus above the optic of the crossing of the optic nerve. And
in the old days, when we were very hierarchical, we said it's the master clock. I always say it's not the master clock. It serves all the clocks in the body. It gives them the information from the outside. It looks outside through the eyes. It gets information about light and darkness. And now it has information, and it gives it into the bloodstream or into the nervous system. And now every other organ, and every cell in your body has a clock. Every other organ can listen to the internal sun, and therefore I always say that the SCN is the internal sun. And they make sure that the entire clockwork of orchestra of clocks in the body is optimally entrained, synchronized to the light-dark cycle. So a well-entrained clock system is essential for health. This is what I call my paper patchwork. I used to go to conferences where people get awards and then they show one paper cover after the other. And I find that a bit boring, and therefore I've just put them all into one slide and then we can get it over with. But there's one paper which has already had been mentioned, and that is, of course at the time I didn't realize that, is the most influential one, because what it did, it created a term that came out of observations, and the term was social jet lag, and again, the image is created by an AI, and it's very interesting because the first couple of images, I wanted somebody in a nightgown, and they gave me an Arab. So it's really quite remarkable to interact with AI. So here you see people who live in 2 time zones, and that is your biological time zone and your social time zone, and they don't always interact or are not synchronous at all. So they live in different time zones. And social jet lag is defined, as you've heard, as between the sleep timing of work days, representing predominantly the social clock, and that on work-free days representing predominantly what your biology wants, if your parents let you do it. And when we introduced the term in 2006, it didn't exist. And within 3 weeks, we had 85,000 hits on the internet. Because what happened is we gave people a name for something that they knew they suffered from. And if you give people a name, they will use it if they can associate with what it does. Today in PubMed, there are way over 600 papers that specifically peer-reviewed scientific papers show an association between social jet lag and health or health deficits. So let's take chronobiology, and this is what I've tried to do the last 15 years, out of the lab into real life, because it's, as Johannes said, it's a quantitative discipline. We have to quantify, but quantifying everything in isolation is not the best thing to do. So what we do is we give these things to people, which are called actimeters, and they record activity as you've seen every day, and now we double plot them so we can see what's happening over the midnight. And of course, once we know where the recording was made and what day it is, we can add the photo period from sunrise to sunset, here shown in the yellow background. And since we are also recording light, we can now use mathematical tricks or algorithms to predict where, from day to day, your internal clock is going to move. So this is all quantifying real data, and it's going to be useful for the diagnosis of people who have difficulties. Because now we can quantify how often they sleep in this window, because if we take the activity, we can also deduct or conclude where people will sleep. And then you can say how often can this person, and this person can sleep relatively often in his or her, in this case, his biological sleeping window. And of course, this is all biology, but now we look at how the interaction between the social world and the biological world is. And what you see here in green are the work-free days, and in red, sleep on work days. And you can see immediately that this person has to get up, despite the fact he works very late, still has to get up very early on a work day, and of course has a sleep deficit and now sleeps in. Not because it's lazy, but we need sleep to be optimally awake, and sleeps in on free days. it suffers from social jet lag, which is the typical sign for social jet lag, is this scalloping between short and early to longer and late. And that's why we call it social jet lag, because it looks like this person flies to the United States on a Friday evening and comes back to Europe on a Monday morning. But he never leaves where he lives. So what you can see here is that on work-free days, he starts sleeping at the projected onset of the sleep window, and on work days, he tries to sleep earlier, but he always wakes up. He only sleeps through once he gets into his biological sleep window. So all of these things can be used now to diagnose the life of people. We can accompany with these measurement methods. We can accompany studies. We can accompany the success of interventions and so forth, because we can measure a myriad of different variables and compare them. But we can go further, because since we have knowledge about light, we now can invent light profiles. We can say, this is when this person worked, probably inside. We can ask people when they work, whether they take a bike or a bus to work, and so forth. And so we can guess what light levels these people can get. And then we can show that something's wrong here. Oh, no. This not real person, we can accompany for 12 weeks in April and July in the Northern Hemisphere. So you can see simulations can go into the future. So we are somewhere here at the top, and we're going where this person has already been. And of course, we can say this person has a 9-to-5 job. It's a late type, like the real person you saw in the last slides. But this person now can't work late. It has to do a 9-to-5 job. And we can assess where this person would be. And the social jet lag, of course, in this case, is huge. Now, since we are free, since we have imaginary data, we now can say what would happen if this person would go in to work with a bike instead of a bus, or what would happen if this person wouldn't work from 9 to 5, but simply work later, from 11 to 19. And of course, you can model all this, and then the light profiles would change, and you can model that in this case, the social jet lag would be greatly reduced and this person would sleep much longer. Now this is future, because now we can say architects and other people should give us data, and this is all dependent on the chronotype of the individual. All these modelings are depend on the chronotype. So these models can answer important questions and will lead to experiments by making hypotheses. So the experiment, the simulation says, we believe that this would happen if we changed that and this. And now we can go out and do the experiment and say, is this really true? We can validate what the model says, and we can optimize the model with all those findings. And the key questions are to optimize circadian entrainment and sleep, of course. And when should individuals or groups of individuals be exposed to more light or more darkness? What color temperature should this light have? What should the optimal work schedules, even for the poor shift workers, look like? We have a group here of more younger or more older people. We can chronotype them, and then we can model which is the most invasive, or better, which is the least invasive shift schedule that we can give these people on a very individual or a very, very specific group level. So we have a growing actimetry base, that's real data, and then the simulating models can learn, and their outputs can interact with the real world, and that is shift planners, architects, and other people who should, as I said, be very interested in the biology. Thank you very much. What was that in?
Big congratulations, Professor Emeritus Professor Till ROENNEBERG, and thank you for this most interesting talk. I really hope some politicians were also listening and could maybe change society a bit according to the biology of the humans. Really interesting. And now it is time for the second award here at the Daylight Award 2024, namely the award given for outstanding architecture integrating daylight. And to hand out this part of the award, I am of course happy to invite the second of our hosts back on stage, Lykke Kan Ovstrup Lunde. Please welcome her. Thank you.
I hope this is right because I took it off while sitting on my chair down here. Yes, there's nodding. Excellent. All right, thank you very much. Our laureate in architecture has created numerous brilliant examples of architectural light. Light directed as focused beams, creating a sense of drama and significance. But the uniqueness of his architecture is that it makes us aware of the presence of daylight around us. Beside this, he has taught and lectured, and is continuously doing so, in numerous universities around the world. An expert jury has chosen him among the many candidates for the award. About him, the jury says, and I quote, "Our laureate is one of the most admired representatives of what can be categorized as essential architecture. And he has developed his line of architectural thinking consistently, subtly, and impressively with a production that is wide as well as versatile." There's a lot of W's and V's in one sentence. The laureate's projects are restrained and silent examples of sensuous, mental, and poetic quality in the architectural articulation of daylight. His works are celebrations of the silent miracles of daylights in buildings of widely differing functions, buildings that appear to attract daylight on their white surfaces and heighten the presence and healing powers of natural light. The jury deeply admires how his buildings appear to be sunk in white light. The whiteness makes the viewer conscious of daylight as a gift, and its seminal importance for all life on Earth, as well as for human culture, and makes us aware of the spiritual and symbolizing qualities of light. The 2024 laureate for daylight in architecture is Professor ALBERTO CAMPO BAEZA. And I don't know if I said it right. I'm still working on my Spanish. An internationally recognized architect and highly regarded professor, and here comes more Spanish, at the Escuela Técnica Superior de Arquitectura de Madrid. Please welcome to the stage, Professor ALBERTO CAMPO BAEZA. Congratulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much.
I would like to give you this medal as a proof of the recognition of your work. Thank you. And first, we're going to have the possibility to have a short film presenting more about your work, and then you'll come back up here and say so.
Thank you. Tak.
Selv tak. Mucho gusto.
An architect is someone that has dreams, and after he is building the dreams, and it's so simple. Many times I've received this label. Mr. Campo BAEZA, you are the architect of the light. And light, of course. I defend that light is not something mysterious. No, it's not so mysterious. When you are building, you need stone or bricks or steel, but also light. But the difference is you must pay for your steel, you must pay for your bricks, you must pay for stone, but light is free. Also, light is in movement. Light is building the time. In the same way that gravity, Newton, he researched about light. An architect must fight and control the gravity, the G. Gravity is building the space and light is building the time. Every project is like, maybe like a doctor is making a diagnosis. The doctor must analyze you, make many analyses. When I go to my buildings under construction, I am enjoying a lot because I continue deciding and changing. More than changing, tuning, like with a musical instrument. Before to play, you need to tune. Plip, 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 plip. The project is a complete process you are enjoying so enormously. It's very special. At the beginning, when you receive a commission, or the commission in general is coming because the utilitas. Vitruvius spoke about utilitas, firmitas, and venustas. Utilitas was the function. I need a house, or at this moment I am building a nursery in Armenia, and they don't need a house, they need a nursery. My future, I don't know. God knows. I continue teaching in different places. 2 days ago, I was teaching in New York through the computer with the NYIT, and I don't know, but I am open. It's like unbelievable how so many people are interested in my work, in my life, etc., etc. And I cannot more than to thank God and to thank all of you for your interest. And thank you, thank you, thank you. The only word capable to summarize all of my feelings is tack. Thank you, thank you, thank you very, very much. This award, I repeat it, that is more the result of your generosity than from my merits. It's your generosity. I am very, very moved being here and receiving this important award. Thank you very much. And because when you proposed to me to speak today, you say 10 minutes, the maximum. I said, okay, my God. And I wrote my discourse to control. And between my words on the screen, some of my words appear, and you could, I hope, to enjoy. Maybe this is an influence of my time teaching. I was teaching from 50 years ago. A lot of time teaching and enjoying, because I must recognize that to teach is an occasion to enjoy a lot. And it is because I wrote this one short idea, light and gravity, well tempered, well tuned. When a Russian architect named Melnikov decided to build his own house, that fascinating white cylinder in Moscow, he wrote these rotund words: having made myself the boss, I entreated her, architecture, to throw off from herself the shawl of marble, wash off the powder and rock, and reveal herself, and clothed as good, graceful, and young. And as befits a true beauty, she turned out to be very agreeable and compliant. You use the word essential. I like to make an architecture very essential, with very few elements. No minimalism, but few elements. It's like poetry. A pair of hours before was a poet here reciting her poems, and with the sound of the music, magnificent. It's like poetry. Poetry is not a minimalism in literature. It's only the precise words capable to remove our hearts. This is the beauty that one wants for his architecture. A naked beauty, intelligent, essential, capable of captivating our minds and hearts. The mind, with the overwhelming logic and reason, with the precision of the dimensions, the efficacy of the proportions, the clarity of the scale, with a built idea. Built ideas. We are not making caprices. An architect is not a capricious genius. No, it's a very, very logic creator. The heart with the warm sentiment of emotion, with the splendor of the light, with the serenity of an ordering of a space that asserts control to gravity. And thus, idea, light, and gravity are the three principal components of that architecture which I call essential. This architecture that proclaims more with less. Mies van der Rohe, architect, he said, more with less. And I say, I said more is less. Mies van der Rohe said less is more. A more that places mankind at the center of the created work as the center of architecture. A less that transcends any minimalism, that goes to the center of the questions with only the precise number of elements capable of materially translating these ideas. Idea, light, and gravity. Nothing more and nothing less. Maybe I go to cut my test and to reduce a bit. Light. Idea, light, gravity, light. Light is the essential because I am repeating some concept that I express in my words. Is the essential, indispensable component in the construction of architecture. Light is matter and material, just as a stone. It's not, I said, okay, if you put an architect is using a stone, bricks, steel, and every material is expensive. But light is free. We don't pay because the most luxurious, the most beautiful, the most essential in the center of our labor of architect is free. This is light. Without light, there is no architecture. I wrote, and I entitled some of, I was speaking with you, and you said that you wrote 80 books and thousands of different essays. I only wrote 40, no 80 books, and not 1,000, but maybe 100 of essays. Without light, there is no architecture. We would only have lifeless constructions. Light is the only thing capable of tensing the space for people. It puts people in relation with the space created for them, tenses it, and makes it visible. It is light that gives reason to time. It is light which, I repeat, light builds time. Finale. No, I was tempted to use a recipe that I am here from a writer, medieval writer that is only 3 lines and no more, but it was very prepared. And finale, when an architect finally discovers that light is the central theme of architecture, it is then that he or she begins to understand and starts to become a real architect. Light is not some vague or diffuse thing to be taken for granted just because it is always there. The sun does not rise for everyone every single day for nothing. If I am able, through my work, to make people feel the rhythms set by nature, harmonizing spaces with light, tempering them with the passage of the sun, then I believe that what we call architecture is all worthwhile. Thank you very, very, very much. Thanks.
You should stay. Because we can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alberto.
Yeah.
Yes, you have to sit there, and you can also wait a few seconds. I just want to say thank you so much for all the beautiful buildings that were shown through your talk, and for very beautiful and poetic works, reminding of us the importance of daylight also on an aesthetic level. So thank you so much, Alberto. Also, tak to you. And now I would like to invite back onto the stage Professor Till ROENNEBERG, because we have an interview. So please welcome back also Till ROENNEBERG. Yes. So, of course, again, congratulations to both of you on this. Oh,
Congratulations, Congratulations.
And it's so nice to see these interdisciplinary things, yes. And I think so many of the things you said, you know, they really interweaved, like Juhani Pallasmaa talked about.
He's wise.
He's wise.
I am an ignorant.
You are also wise. And we need many types of wisdom, I think, because humans are complex and the world is complex, so we need to talk together instead of, you know, building walls. And therefore, it's so nice to have around 20 minutes for a shared interview. And first of all, we would like to have some questions from our satellite events. And the first question we will have from Eindhoven. So let's see if we can get through. For a shared interview. And first of all, we would like to have some questions from our satellite event. I think there's a talk going on behind. Can you hear us in Eindhoven?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi,
nice. First of all, big congratulations to both winners. Emeritus Professor Till ROENNEBERG, you have been a strong advocate of not shifting to daylight saving time, but keeping winter time, to avoid challenging our health through messing up with our internal clock. Which interventions are, according to you, beyond keeping winter time, urgently needed and powerful to foster a healthy light exposure pattern, and in turn facilitate good sleep and promote sustainable health? And to what extent should these interventions be chronotype specific?
Thank you so much. And I will just repeat some of it
Thank you very
to
much.
make sure, because I think there was a talk going on behind, so it was a bit of a mix. But she's asking...
You said life is complicated.
Life is complicated and complex, and technology is also. So she's asking, which interventions are, according to you, Till Rønneberg, beyond keeping wintertime, urgently needed and powerful to foster a healthy light exposure pattern, and in turn facilitate good sleep and promote sustainable health? And to what extent should these interventions be chronotype specific?
Well, the first intervention we have to do is we have to clean up our thinking. If you start talking about wintertime and summertime, you are already prone to do propaganda, because there's neither summertime nor wintertime. In the winter, we normally have our normal zone time, and what we call summertime is nothing else but a common agreement to go to work an hour earlier. That's all. And in order so people don't notice that, they change the clocks. That is so-called summertime. And so the major intervention we have to do is to clean up our thinking about what's happening. And then we turn to interventions. Whenever humans think they can successfully intervene with the product of evolution, they are always wrong. Because it's very complex, and we have to be very careful. So the default should be, as I said, nature. The default should be camping. This means everything we do, and that's chronotype specific in a way that, okay, I have to go back. The earliest lark and the latest owl in our society are 12 hours apart. When you take people camping, they are maybe 2 hours apart, so the whole distribution is narrowed down, because now they experience real daylight and real night dark, okay? And you squish this broad distribution, which has been necessary to keep our clocks in synchrony because of the lack of daylight and because of the lack of night dark. So we have to go back camping, meaning that the interventions we should do are the interventions that lead us back to biology without having to live without mobile phones and without heating or the technical inventions. We have to integrate our modern world with a world that we came from. And I think that's what we all should do.
And just now you said without cell phones, without heating, but would you also say that we should shut down electric light?
No. I'm not saying that we should live without phones and all these modern... I mean, we live a wonderful life because we have an incredible medical world out there that keeps us alive in a way that no generation before us was kept alive. So inventions, modern interventions are very, very often good, but they have to sort of combine with the biological needs and not just be interventions like humans think that it's a Lego thinking. Let's put in a red brick into this wall and the wall will be different. The wall is a wall and has many blocks, and nature has many building blocks in everything it does, and many screws where you can change things. And so you have to be very careful with the interventions, but you have to use the technology that we all love in a way together with camping. Let's focus on camping. I actually don't like camping that much, but it's a good picture.
And now when I saw the photos of your beautiful buildings, it didn't appear in my mind that it had anything to do with camping. But now when Till Rønneberg is talking about the concept of camping, expanded to how we integrate light and darkness in our buildings, do you then see as an architect that you could use the idea of camping when you construct architecture?
Maybe it's more easy. It's not. I am not thinking camping. No. I am also. I am only. Maybe I go to change your words, and I go to use like a recipe. When you are cooking, I am a very bad cook. But I know that to cook well, it are necessary different ingredients. And the ingredients are, with the same ingredients, I would cook is capable to make a marvelous product. And with the same ingredients, I am a disaster. My result is not good. But the recipe could be the same and the ingredients the same. But today here, we must insist that the light, and I spoke before about the comparison, like light is free, light is, the sun is in movement. Before, when at the beginning of this, our movies, was the producer put the sun in movement, but and if Galileo could protest that, no, it's on the opposite. But in any case, the relation between the light from the sun and the earth and the human being, or all of us, is light in movement. It's another quality. It's free, it's in movement, it's a gift from God that, okay, and architects can use it and can get with the same ingredient many horrible architecture, but with the same ingredient we can get a marvelous architecture. For speaking about not my work, no your investigation, the Pantheon in Rome is only a sphere, 43 meters of diameter, open a skylight. I'm sure your grandfather will admire and will be there happy. And through this hole is entering the sun and producing an effect. I think many of you, of the people in this room, you are architects. And I remember the first day I entered in the Pantheon in Rome, I cried because it's very moving. And I discovered one more time that light, light, light.
Thank you so much. It's so interesting hearing your different answers, and we are lucky now that we have another question, and I just need to check. This time we are going to visit the satellite event in Oxford. Hi, Oxford. Good evening.
Good evening from Oxford. My name is Lucas Kroner. I'm a clinician scientist here. And first of all, I would like to congratulate both laureates this year on their outstanding achievements and this really prestigious award. As a medical doctor, I'd like to ask the question, how we can bring more light into our hospital environments, and when that is not possible, how we can mimic the effects of light in our hospitals for the benefit of both our patients and our staff.
Thank you so much. And I think I will start with you, Alberto, because he was a doctor and he asks, how can we get more light into our hospitals? Have you ever thought about, or have you ever visited any hospitals that you think is good in bringing daylight into the hospital?
My answer in this case is I don't know this guy that making his question, but my father was a doctor, was a surgeon, was making traumatology, and he died with 104 years until the last moment was very nice, smiling, enjoying the life. But I remember when I was a child, always after the operation, after the intervention, he put in Cádiz. Cádiz is a city in the south of Spain, maybe for you, where Gibraltar is. And Cádiz is a beautiful, beautiful city, and with a sun, the same sun than here, but very similar also the wind, but like here. But my father always, after the intervention, he put the people under the sun, and under the sun, and trusting in sun like an ingredient, like a capacity of to sun to help you to become healthy.
Interesting, and I think that really works, and in some way it's a bit strange that we've sort of forgotten to have more light in our hospitals. And now I would like to ask you then, Till ROENNEBERG, you already touched upon that we should have more roof windows. How do you see hospitals today? We're focused on, we can give medicine, we can do surgery. Have we totally forgotten sort of the biological circadian clock, the importance of daylight in many hospitals today?
I think we had forgotten it, and luckily we're coming back to thinking about it. Two things. First of all, a nice study showed that, I think it was a psychiatric hospital, that patients who lived on the east side of so there was a long wing of hospital rooms, and those that were stayed in the eastern rooms stayed shorter in the hospital than those on the western side, which means they got more light and earlier light. And it was a very simple experiment. It was just going through the statistics and how long were these patients in which, on this side of the ward and on the other side of the ward. So yes, light is very, very important. But and I'll come back to non-light importance in the hospital in just a second. But I'm now telling you that the interventions in the intensive care units are thinking very much of using light, because intensive care is constant light, constant conditions. Most of the patients are not conscious anyhow, so why not leave it as is? But now we're thinking of changing the quality of light and even introducing light and darkness, because even early-born babies, very simple experiment again, you put them into premature babies, you put them in the ward, and some of them you put at night, you put sort of a pram umbrella on top of them, and others not. And those that get this light-dark cycle are out of the ICU much earlier. And the same we have to do with patients. But even more importantly, when we're talking about light, we're always also talking about the circadian clock. And I still don't understand why doctors who should know that one of the major medications against illness is sleep. And every morning at 5 o'clock, some nurse comes in and says, "Have we slept well?" This is something we really have to change, because people have to sleep and not just be woken because somebody wants to deliver a cup of tea and measure the temperature. That's not the way to go about it.
I think it's an important message. And then just one short follow-up question. Is it possible today to create artificial light that has the same benefits for humans as daylight? So you could put it in hospitals if you do not have roof windows.
Yes, it is. I mean, it's not the same, and it needs a lot of power. But we can produce the power again with photovoltaic units, so we can indirectly use the sun to get light into the artificial light into buildings. Yes, it is possible, and I still think that we neglect the orientation of the sun as being something that comes from above, more than from the side. Everybody who works on a computer in a building knows that the sun coming from the window is not very beneficial for your sight, whereas a milky, diffuse light coming from above is just perfect. Everything is bright, and you can still see everything you want to see, and there's no glare. So glare-less light from above would be wonderful. And yes, you can do it artificially, but of course then you have to take care of what time of day it is, because you want to boost the circadian system, and therefore you should have more bluish light. during the day and more reddish light during the evening after sunset, because as you already said, with the, I forgot who was it, the fire.
Johanni mentioned the fire.
Johanni mentioned the fire. The light of a fire is the light we see traditionally for thousands of years at night. And we should create this light so that we still don't fall over objects, because we're visual animals, but our clocks say, this is just fire, it's not really daylight. And that's how we can get the camping situation into the hospital again.
Nice. Now we have our last satellite event having a question, so we're going to Zurich.
Hello from ETH. I hope you can hear me well. First of all, congratulations to this year's Velux Award recipients. We are honored to be part of this event. My name is Melika Konitanin, and I'm a research assistant at the Department of Architecture here at ETH. At ETH, we are often challenged to teach students on how to create a bridge between the research and design. So we would like to ask a question. How do you translate daylight research into architectural design project? Thank you.
So a short, specific answer, and I will just say it once more, Alberto. How, because she was an architect, how to translate research on daylight into design projects. So how to get architects to use what someone like Till ROENNEBERG is researching?
First of all, I can explain to this student that I was teaching for a complete year at the ETH at Zurich, a very good school. And how to translate this investigation? Maybe in continuity with your answer, or your question that natural light, artificial light. In my last project, that is a bit secret, I am making a cube in glass, big. In glass, translucent glass. Maybe your grandfather will enjoy also with this one. It's translucent glass, capable with in a double way. On the one hand, is receiving the light, natural light, and it's like unbelievable how is possible this mechanism, the capacity of this mechanism to receive and to concentrate and summarize the light, the natural light. But because I need in some period of time more light, I am using, and I was investigating about LEDs,
LEDs,
LED, and I am astonished because the result is magnificent. And this combination between natural light and artificial light, and is how I translate my investigations in this type of solutions, and I am astonished with the possibilities. Thank you very much.
And thank you for the answer. And now just shortly, Till, do you, as you see in the world of hospitals, they're getting more and more aware of the importance of daylight. Do you also, because it seems like for many years there's been sort of gaps. You have had this kind of science, and you've had design, then you had architecture, then you had humanities. But do you see that there are bridging happening already, so architects and scientists talk more and more together? And do you feel architects are interested in your work and your research?
Not really. But Alberto told me that he had to take biology at some stage. And I think that should be a must for every architect.
My sister is a biologist.
And your sister is a biologist. So every architect's sister should be a biologist.
I think she is watching our conversation.
Yeah, but that's a good sum up. I think you don't have a sister, brother would also work, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, but let's hope at least that this award can help bridging. And I know that the foundations are trying to create a network also of people keeping up this interdisciplinary talk. And I would just like to know that we could maybe have one short question from the audience, if we have any who has a... Yeah, we have a question. There's a microphone. Would please stand up.
Hi, my name is Christina Augustussen. I'm a visual artist working with daylight and the colors of daylight. And first of all, a huge congratulations with the award, and and thank you for your talk. So I have a question to you, Mr. ALBERTO Campo BAEZA. You talk about, or I can see from your architecture, that you work a lot with white and bright materials, and that you appreciate the dynamic of the daylight very much. So my question is, how do you work with the different colors and intensity of the daylight appearing during the day? And the second question, if you use colored materials, do you then have a special approach how to pick the colors, and where do you use the colors, for example, in accordance to the character of the daylight in a specific site?
Maybe the answer could be very long, and I don't like to...
But no.
I could say, I suppose you are an architect, or
visual artist, I think she said.
Yeah, and there is an architect that I love a lot, Mexican. His name was Barragan, and he was working with colors, with magnificent architectures with colors. I tried sometimes to use color, but my recipes are more white than color, and my recipes are more effective with white than with color. But I love color, and maybe I said before that I am an ignorant. My ignorance is about color, huh? But I love colors also. Thank you.
But actually, I think what you could say then is that you let the daylight create the various colors, as Till ROENNEBERG said. In the morning, it's more bluish, and then it turns more and more reddish. So you create big areas for the daylight to be able to create the various colors. Mm-hmm.
And white is every color.
Yeah.
And white is every color. That's
maybe they accuse me that, Alberto, you are always wearing white shirts. Yes.
But a purple tie today.
But the tie is not white.
No. Well, thank you so much, both ALBERTO BAEZA and Till ROENNEBERG, for this very interesting interview.
And also to you.
White and color.
I'm a poet, meaning I search for stories in the places most people forget to look, like in the fine lines around your eyes that once upon a time was created because you had a calling and refused to let go, like in the bite marks on all your pens and the warm cup of coffee on your desk that always turns cold after the first sip. There are stories to be told in your work, in your research, in your buildings and designs. There are stories in all the potential you bring to light. And this is why I wrote your work a poem. So this is for the architects building dreams out of light, for the researchers that taught us why to look inside, to the community, to the young, to the not so young. But most of all, this poem is for daylight and to all your ideas that shine so incredibly bright. I wonder a lot. I wonder my hair's gray. I wonder days into nights, and sometimes I imagine plucking stars from the night sky to keep me company while I write. I wonder what secrets are hidden in the shadows and what potential we can find in daylight. And sometimes I wonder if our days have become a bit too fast when we look up and say, oh, where did the day go? The sun slipped from between our fingers, fell into the evening hours, a reminder for all of us to take a breath and appreciate daylight and its sometimes overlooked superpowers. Modern society keeps us disconnected from nature and its universal clock. We are inside most hours of the day, disregarding our body's needs, thinking everything is okay. When we should all go camping more. We should fall asleep alongside the moon and the stars and sync our body clocks to the healing sun. And to combat social jet lag, we must shift social expectations. And let's be honest, most of us would be nicer people if we got a little bit more sleep. And let's normalize saying, please don't talk to me before the sun is finished rising. Light is a promise, like walking into a building that feels like a warm hug from a loved one. Architecture gives us the truth, the essential, and leaves us with an experience of beauty, an experience of light in movement. And I'm in awe of your buildings housing suns, yellow and bright, assertive and kind, daylight decorating walls with its hopeful potential. Wherever you enter, light is there. From the initial dream to the first line drawn on paper, during the fine-tuning of the process, and at last, daylight finds a home in your work, standing solid and eternal. Your presence here today, right now, in this very moment, in this flickering heartbeat, is an act of generosity. Your presence is bridging knowledge and lighting up this community. And today we celebrate the work of two fields uniting, two fields reminding us of the power of daylight. And all the knowledge in this room is a vibrant thing, a constant force, little rays of the future, a legacy passed on to the next generation. And we all want to be remembered. It's a very human thing. So let's remember each other. Let's remember the words spoken tonight, words to be treated with kindness, treasured and repeated. Words like, without light, there is no architecture. Words like, light, the most luxurious, the most beautiful, is free. Words like, we have to clean our thinking. There is no winter, summertime, it's propaganda. And today we learned a new word, night dark. You honor daylight, and we honor you. And I salute your beautiful creations and your research. Today is a reminder of how we are all connected. So I invite you all to salute the groundbreaking work of Professor Till ROENNEBERG and the unforgettable designs of Professor ALBERTO CAMPO BAEZA. We see you, and I have no doubt that even the sun shines a little bit brighter today in honor of your work that truly made its mark and is right here to stay. Thank you so much.
thank you so much to poet Sarah Rame and to cellist Lieve Johansen for this very touching and poetic performance. It was really, really beautiful, so thank you so much. And now, according to the plan, I should actually say goodbye, but we have a request from our scientist, because there was one slide he forgot that is really important. So I hope that the very for showing that slide, so I hope you can find it. Is somewhere one available to find the last slide?
No, that's
and then what? And then one more.
Then one more. Yes.
Yes.
So I forgot to thank people, okay?
I didn't know.
and I would like to say that the Velux Foundation is wonderful for creating this prize, because by simply focusing on daylight, it brings together so many important aspects of human biology in the modern world, by simply focusing on daylight. And that's what I'm sorry that I sort of interrupted the flow towards the cocktails, but I had to say that before we leave.
Thank you so much. I think it was a really important note to conclude on. And it's been a really wonderful event and very touching, and I'm really inspired and enlightened, and I hope you are as well. And I think even though I appreciated daylight before, I think after today I will appreciate it even more, both when it comes to knowing how the benefits are for me, and also when it comes to architecture. So indeed, it has been an important evening. We really also do hope, on behalf of the foundations, that all of you who are here in this room and all of you who are following will continue this interdisciplinary conversation that we celebrate with the Daylight Award, that experts from both architecture and science will keep enlightening each other in a fruitful way, because we need much more focus on daylight. And we do need, and now when we do spend so much time indoor, up to 97%, every day we spend indoor, then we really need to be able to integrate daylight in our buildings where we spend our time. So thank you so much. Thank you to the foundations, and thank you, of course, to our two award winners for having devoted their lives to these two important things in the human lives, architecture and science. And now I would like to just say thank you to all of you who followed us. Thank you to you who supported us here in this room. This is the end of the gathered celebration of the Daylight Award 2024. So once again, thank you for being with us, and have a wonderful evening. And I would just like to add that for all of you who are here in Copenhagen, we didn't have to tell all of those in the satellite events, because there is a nice reception upstairs. So we hope that you will, of course, enjoy the company upstairs, keep networking, keep on good discussions about what you've heard here today. And then, of course, there will